What is up, Panther fans? It is your boy, the freaking Puerto Rican, in the house for the NFC version of tonight's podcast. We've got some great guests lined up, some guys who I'm sure are very familiar with their teams as well as the division. So I cannot wait to hear what information we're going to find out and what kind of insight we get from these experts.
Joe, it's part 2 of the Roundtable Round Up, right? We had the AFC at 9 o'clock. We are coming to the real league, the NFC, in the 10 o'clock hour. And I'm happy to see some of my homeboys. Gene Thomas, what is up? Super heavyweight, how's it going? And he's muted. Number 1. Nice. Tell us. That's our life as ever. Peter Panacy, all the way from the West Coast, 3rd time on the show, San Francisco 49er fan.
What's up, Pete?
What's happening, guys? How are you guys doing tonight?
Good, good. Tell our fans where they can see your writings at, how they can get up with you on Twitter.
Well, go check me out at Bleacher Report. Look under 49ers page there. You can check me out there. You can also check me out at Niner Noise through Fansided. I'm one of the co-editors of that site. And just give me a follow at Peter Panacy. You can find all my stuff there on Twitter, links to articles and things like that.
Yes, and I can attest that Peter puts out some really good stuff, folks. If you're a 49er fan or just a fan of the NFL in general, go see what Peter puts out. He'll impress you with his writing.
All right, so let's go. Who else do we got on the show, Joe?
We got Chris. Chris, go ahead and tell Panther fans of the show, the Carolina Cat Chronicles C3 podcast, where they can find your stuff and how they can get at you on Twitter.
Well, hey, guys. First of all, thanks for having me on the show. I'm looking forward to talking some football. You can find me over at profootballspot.com, and you can follow me on Twitter at ChrisLicata16. That's Chris Licata 16.
Very nice.
Fantastic.
Very nice. And you write for PFS, but which team do you represent?
I'm an analyst for the Green Bay Packers.
He's a Packer backer, folks.
What an easy
Packer
life.
Backer.
Yeah.
What a great life that must be.
Living the dream. Moving on to the man in the middle, according to my screen, we've got Kennedy Paynter. Did I say your last name right?
Yes, you did, and I'm kind of the opposite of the Packer fan there. I'm the Redskins fan.
Yes, you are.
I can so relate to that in some way.
So, if you would, tell us who you write for and where they can find you on Twitter.
I write for DraftTech.com. I'm the Redskins guy. I also deal with some of the big board stuff. We all kind of do a lot of different things over at DraftTech, but I'm specifically the Redskins writer. On Twitter, my Twitter handle is Keelix17. That's HELIKCX17.
Excellent. Gene, do we got audio?
No, I don't think so.
No.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, here we go.
What's up, Gene? You're a little soft, but so you're going to have to speak up. Super heavyweight, say hello. Another guy that lives a Redskins life in Tampa.
No, it's gonna be good.
It's gonna be different. Gene is representing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. His audio is kind of struggling tonight, folks. Joey, tell us how do we want to start this show off, Joe? Get us started.
Well, all right. Let's. I guess we'll just jump right in. And Kennedy, I'm most interested in hearing about the NFC East because I really find this division intriguing. We've got the Eagles, who are doing all kinds of crazy maneuvers. People wondering if Chip Kelly has lost his mind or if he's some sort of savant. And then we've got the Cowboys, who are making all kinds of moves and doing, I don't know, letting all pro players walk away. You know, I mean, what's going on with that? Redskins, is this the year for RG3? Is he gonna, make it or break it? So
yeah, I'm with you.
I'm doubtful. I mean, I think it's the Cowboys division still. I think they're going to have a great run game. I mean, they added Landon Collins, the best line in the league. So if he's going to play left guard, I mean, they're going to have 4 guys that can play left tackle on their offensive line, which is pretty sick.
Crazy. It's scary.
DeMarco Murray, they don't have a running back as good as he is, but anybody's going to be able to run behind that line. I hate them, but I do think that they're the team to beat. Chip Kelly, I mean, I guess the jury's still out. I just think that he's kind of arrogant, and it's going to catch up to him. I mean, you can't let that kind of talent walk and just expect to win more games.
It's ridiculous. You're going to let that kind of talent, you're going to let Macklin walk. You're going to let Shady walk. That's
Deshaun Jackson.
Deshaun Jackson. Those are big names, big guys that put up big offensive numbers, and you just let them walk out the door.
They said that Deshaun Jackson wasn't gonna produce in any other offense, and then with terrible quarterback play last year, he still put up 1,200 yards and led the league in yards per catch. So
did he really have 1,200 yards?
Yeah, he did, and I think it was he led the league by over 3 yards in yards per
reception.
Yards per reception.
Joey. You know how he got that those 1,200 yards, Joey? He caught 24 passes.
There you go.
2 catches. His numbers are always like 1 catch, 45 yards.
Right.
When they played the Eagles this year, he had 0 catches in the first half, and then he had like an 80-yard catch in the third quarter for a touchdown. So that's kind of how he goes.
He just made his money that way. All right, Joe, tell us who do you want to go to next?
All right. Well, I want to, Kenny, I want to hear what your thoughts are on the Redskins and what they're doing. We know they brought in a new coach last year, so you kind of give them a pass on the first year being with the organization. But they spent all these draft picks on this quarterback, and I don't know if they want him or if they want to cut him.
I lost a little bit of what you said there at the end.
I don't know, when it comes to RG3, do they want to keep him, or are they just trying to get rid of him? I mean, do you think they would get rid of him if they could?
I think they're holding out hope. I think they're holding out hope that he plays well this year. I mean, his attitude is definitely softened. You don't see him sort of saying the arrogant things. It's not, it's kind of RG me is what a lot of people around here call him. We got me Angelo and we got RG me. So, he tries to put on this persona that he isn't like that, but he definitely is. He has more catchphrases than any company I can think of, and he just is constantly trying to sell his brand. I have hopes that he might be okay, but I almost got my jersey altered this year away from him, so that kind of tells you what I think of him. But I think this upcoming year is a huge draft for quarterbacks. There's 5 or 6 guys that might go in the first round. So I think what they're thinking is we're going to give him one more to go around, and if he doesn't do it this year, then next year we draft a quarterback. So I think that's what they're thinking.
I remember when he came in the league, people were all over him about how mobile he was and how he's the second coming of this guy or that guy. And what made me so crazy was the year before, Cam Newton had already done all that, but he didn't get any of that praise.
Right.
Just because he didn't take his team to the playoffs. But yeah, that's kind of what I think. I kind of think that this is it. If he doesn't turn in a productive year, they're done with him.
Yeah, I mean, I think Bill Callahan coming from the Cowboys, I mean, everyone's saying that he had a bigger part in their running game last year than people give him credit for. If our run game can get on track and we start running the ball more around 50% of the time, I think RG3 could really do well. If he can get in some play action, some bootlegs, I think he'll be fine. It's just that last year, our offensive line wasn't all that great. We changed 2 positions and kind of gotten more power back there. So, if we can run the ball, there's a chance that he could at least be respectable.
Is that the scheme that Gruden wants to run, like run first, then bring in the play action pass? Is that his offensive style, or is he more of like just chuck it all over the field?
I mean, he's more West Coast. When he had Andy Dalton, they threw the ball a lot, but it was all short stuff. Andy Dalton had a game under Gruden where he didn't throw a pass over 7 yards, but he had like 30 completions.
Wow.
So he likes the short passes. He should run the ball more, and he just doesn't. I mean, we had a game against the Eagles last year. We were winning by, I think, 17 or 18 points, and he's throwing the ball in the third quarter. So he needs to stick with the run, but I think he knows that, and I think if he wants to keep his job, he knows that now he's got Bill Callahan, he's got the offensive lineman, he wants to run a power scheme. So if he doesn't run the ball, he's going to be, it's going to be his head at the end of the season. So I think he'll run the ball.
Well, speaking of power schemes, Peter, I want to talk to you about your 49ers. And they used to have that ground and pound, that power run the ball in your face with Frank Gore sort of thing. But now they have lost some offensive linemen and Gore. So what do you expect to see from Hyde and the rest of that offensive unit this season?
Well, the big question mark's going to be obviously whether or not that offensive line can gel as a unit. You lose Mikey Potty, you lose Anthony Davis. You have some questions at what you're going to do with Alex Boone along the line. Is he going to play out at tackle? Is he going to move over to the left side of the line? There's some continuity problems there. There's also a big injury concern with Daniel Kilgore, the center. He got injured in Week 7 last year, and last I heard, he's still not going to be 100% by the start of camp. So if the offensive line can at least generate a good amount of run blocking, they should be okay. Carlos Hyde is a guy that I like a lot, and as much as it was tough to see Frank Gore go, it's time to put Hyde in the reins and let him be the featured back. So, I mean, he's lost a little bit of weight this offseason, tried to get a little bit more nimble, a little bit more agile, a guy that we saw a little bit last season really show what he can do, especially in yards after contact. So I'm going to like what I see out of Hyde. Kendall Hunter, the number 2 back, good as a number 2 back can be in the league. And then with Reggie Bush, at least able to catch passes out of the backfield. I know he's old, but you use him in certain situations for screens, swings. You can get a little bit more of a dynamic backfield game, which has been the 49ers' bread and butter for years, and I expect them to go back under that a little bit more under Jim Tomsula this year.
Which is what I was thinking, too. It's his first year. Colin Kaepernick, I mean, you kind of know what you got there, but he sort of took a step backward last season. I think the best thing that he could do is probably run the ball. Just, a quarterback's best friend is his running game. So if he focuses on that, then that might give Kaepernick a little room to breathe and not make him the focus of the offense. Gene, you're sort of in that same boat there with Tampa Bay, right? You guys are looking to run the ball more than you have in the past.
Yeah, that's correct. Are you guys hearing me okay?
Yeah, we got you just fine, man.
Okay. Yeah, we got away from the run game last year. I think the fact that we didn't have an offensive coordinator really hurt us a lot. We started out with Jeff Tedford, and because of his illnesses or whatever, we didn't have a full-fledged offensive coordinator throughout that season. And a lot of people look at the Buccaneers. I know we've had our problems in the past couple of years, but I think that we're slowly putting it together. When you look at how the Buccaneers have fared in the drafts, going all the way back to their Super Bowl win in 2003, forward, we really haven't fared very well with free agency or with the draft. And I would say the past 3 or 4 years, we're starting to kind of turn that around. We finally have what I would consider an actually good general manager who thinks things through, and he's able to assess talent better than our previous general managers over the past decade even. And right now, we're in a place where we've finally gotten a quarterback, and time will tell if that was a good move as well. I go back to Josh Freeman, number 17 pick. We traded up to get him so that Denver wouldn't snatch him away in the draft. And unfortunately for him, it was a lot of mismanagement as well, where we had a general manager that couldn't put any real pieces around him to make him better. And finally, we had coaching changes that put him on the outside looking in, and eventually he was finally sent on his way. And the past couple of years, we've picked up players like your Levante David and even Doug Martin, who's been injured over the last couple of years. And it looks like this season he is healthy. And I do see the Buccaneers running a whole lot more. We do have Michael James, Doug Martin, and Charles Sims is going to be one of our feature backs, who's a running back who can actually catch out of the field and stretch those plays. And you will see a lot of that speed in space, which is what they're really trying to run.
All right, well, Chris, you're the only guy who I haven't addressed as of yet, and I'm getting ready to do that right now. I wanted to say, Gene, you talk about creating space and, making plays in the open field. You don't really have that problem there, Chris. You guys have a beast of a back in Eddie Lacy, and, he doesn't need space. He pretty much makes his own. And will we see more of him this season, or are we going to see more of the same Aaron Rodgers, Jordy Nelson, and the dynamic duo back there?
Yes, sir. Well, things are going well in Green Bay, as you know. There's weapons seeping out of the walls at this point.
It's disgusting.
When it comes to Eddie Lacy, I think you see a lot of what you saw last year. Just pound the rock early in the game, get the ball to James Starks here and there, and just try to get him 20, 25 carries a game. But you're also going to see Aaron Rodgers do his thing with the offense, spread the ball, deep intermediate game, just with where they win, and you got to think they'll continue to do so.
So where is this team lacking? Where is the one area of weakness on this Packer team, whether it's the position or group? Where do you see the weakness?
For the Packers, any weaknesses you're going to find right now are on the defensive side of the ball.
That's what I was thinking.
Most notably at this point, there's questions within the interior defensive line, linebacker, and the young corner we now have.
Mm-hmm. Right, that's where you're going to be vulnerable, I think. You're going to be able to put up 100 points. It's just a question of how many are you going to give up. That's going to be hard to outscore you, but that's going to be one area teams can do that in. Peter, you see, we see where the 49ers are right now, okay? I see a Cardinals team that improved a little bit and is getting Carson Palmer back. How dangerous is that Cardinals team in the NFC West?
Well, it's got to be a team that does obviously revolve around Carson Palmer. I mean, Bruce Arians has done a phenomenal job with that squad. Defensively, they're solid. They gave up a lot of rushing yards last year, but that was also because their offense floundered when Palmer got hurt in the second half of the season, and they had that quarterback carousel. You look at the big pieces that they needed this offseason. They needed help along the offensive line. They addressed that. They got Mikey Potty, a big run blocker, and you figure that's going to benefit Andre Ellington a lot. Mm-hmm. Michael Floyd, they picked up his fifth-year extension, and you got Floyd, Larry Fitzgerald, the crafty veteran, doing his thing, and you're going to see a really well-balanced team offensively and defensively if, and it's a big if, Carson Palmer can stay healthy. He's kind of the guy that team's going to revolve around. If he winds up getting hurt, you're going to see that team flop probably a lot of the same ways that it did last year, where just down the stretch they really fell apart and kind of limped into the postseason, and the next thing you know, they're out so quickly. So if Palmer stays healthy, that's going to be a good team because it's a well-balanced offense. It's going to keep its defense rested, and they're going to compete, and they're going to be, just as solid as they were last year. The one difference, though, is that last year they kind of surprised everybody with that hot start. This year, teams facing them are knowing, hey, this is a legitimate team. We got to bring our A game, and that can be difficult for some franchises that really haven't been there on a consistent basis before.
Right.
Joey, I was hoping to ask Kennedy what he thought about the Nick Foles move to St. Louis, and the idea that I think that St. Louis is the underestimated team in that division. I think that they have a chance with that defense to be in every game. Kennedy, do you think Nick Foles is going to help them improve?
I think healthy Nick Foles is better than a hurt Sam Bradford. I think a healthy Sam Bradford's actually better than Nick Foles. But problem I love Jeff Fisher, and he's a charm to the media, but he's had only a couple winning seasons in his 20 years of coaching.
Mm-hmm.
They have all the talent in the world, but they just don't play together. I mean, their defense, they probably have 15, 16 guys that could start on any defense in the league. I mean, they're just really deep. They have Nick Fairley as their fourth defensive tackle. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane. So their offense should be okay. They got rid of their offensive coordinator, Schottenheimer, who was just, I don't know how he has a job in the league. I don't know. I mean, he obviously did because of his dad, but he shouldn't have. So honestly, the Rams, I'd like to think, I think talent-wise they should be in the playoffs, but it's just a question of whether they can put that together. And also, they have to play the Cardinals and the Seahawks.
Seahawks, right? That's a tough division.
Yeah,
that's an excellent point. Peter, how do you feel about that? I think they have 5 first-round picks on their defensive line.
Yeah, the Rams are going to be a team where they're going to go as far as their defense carries them. Losing offensive tackle Jake Long, that's a big loss for the offense. You pick up Todd Gurley. Obviously, that's a big boost, but you still lack a little bit at wide receiver. I don't know how I feel about Nick Foles. I thought that he succeeded in the type of offense that was being run in Philadelphia, but what Jeff Fisher tries to do with him, I'm not sure. Again, like you guys were bringing up with Jeff Fisher not necessarily being a coach with a winning pedigree, I think that can bring a team down. And when you're facing off, I mean, the 49ers I'll throw in there because they still are going to have a pretty good defense, but against Arizona twice a year, against Seattle twice a year, I think at best bet for the Rams it's going to be close to an 8-8 season.
Wow.
I agree. I don't. They might go 10-6, but I mean, you're basically going to lose at least. You're probably going to lose 4 games in the division.
Look at that shirt.
There, you already have 4 losses.
Look at that shirt, St. Louis fans. You guys like that shirt?
I do love Todd Gurley though. Having said all of that, if they can turn, they drafted like 6 offensive linemen. I don't think I'm exaggerating. It was either 5 or 6. So if a couple of them pan out and they can have a solid offensive line, they might be all right.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Chris, let's get back to you over there. With your division, the Packers are definitely the odds-on favorite, and I think that's pretty safe to say. You got the Lions. Do you think they kind of took a step forward or a step backward? They lost Sue. That's going to hurt anybody. But who do you see challenging the Pack for second place there in that division?
For sure. The NFC North, interesting this year. You have Green Bay, the odds-on favorite. And you kind of have a bunch of teams in transition here.
Mm-hmm.
Quietly coming off an 11-5 season. I think they take a little step back this year. That loss of Sue and Fairley in the middle, that's their bread and butter, and I'm not sure how they're going to go about replacing their production. I mean, the offense is stable as ever. Early round draft pick, Laken Tomlinson plugged in the offensive line there. They should have better protection for Stafford, so no worries on that side of the ball. They have to figure out that defensive front 4 to keep up with Green Bay.
Yeah.
Then you have Minnesota, who's kind of a wild card team. A lot of people are kind of jumping on this bandwagon now.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Zimmer is building a monster in Minnesota, unfortunately.
No, I agree. I think he is. I think he's got something going there. He really does.
For the Vikings, it's going to come down to Teddy Bridgewater's progression this year. I think that's going to be the key to how far they can go. So they're coming off a 7-9 team, so I think they'll be right around that 500 mark, maybe get over the hump to 7. And then you have Chicago, who I think is going to be pulling up the rear again this year.
Yeah. Oh, we lost your audio.
I think, Joey, this is what I'm thinking about with the Minnesota Vikings is that Bridgewater looked fantastic as a rookie. He started off slow and quiet, kind of like his personality, but he played solid. He didn't make any mistakes. He didn't look overwhelmed out there. I think I'm in agreement here. I think Detroit – I really think that defense, which was so good last year, which is so against what has been their story for so long, is that I see them stepping back. I see Chicago being what Minnesota was last year, and that is John Fox coming in there, conservative, give the ball to Forte. They'll be okay. Minnesota is a good team that I think could be vying for a wild card.
I agree. I think that you make a great point, and something we didn't really talk about when it comes to Minnesota is that defense.
Adrian Peterson.
And Peterson, yeah. Peterson's coming back. He didn't play last year, and that defense is good. They've got some playmakers on that side of the ball. They really do. That linebacking core you really got to like, and they're young. They're not that old of a team.
I want to ask Gene what he thinks about defense and how badass Carolina Panthers defense is.
Hey, you know me. I hate your team, but the way that your administration built that team, very consistent. They didn't go out into free agency a whole lot. They worked with what they had, and they went through the draft. So they did things the way you're supposed to build a team, and that's through the draft, and you groom these people to come up, and then you have a foundation. So when you have to make changes, it's easy to plug somebody in because everybody on your base is able to play. You haven't had a lot of turnover as far as draft picks go, so you've shown nothing but consistency, which kind of reflects on the two playoff the appearances that you've had. So definitely, I hate your team, but I have to say that your defense is something to be feared.
You know you hate us less than the Atlanta Falcons because nobody hates the Atlanta Falcons more than these guys right here. Tell us, just give us a lay of the land of the NFC South, Gene.
Well, once again, the team to beat, and I hate to say it, but it's going to be the Carolina Panthers, having gone to the playoffs. No real drama in your camp and anywhere really. I mean, you gotten rid of Greg Hardy, which you really no big deal there.
We got all our fingers.
Exactly. And your head coach and general manager are really working together, and you've actually improved with the draft. It looks like you guys have a wide receiver and another weapon, more weapons for Cam Newton to throw to. So definitely Carolina's the team to beat. And I know you guys were teasing me earlier last year when I told you that Tampa will compete for the NFC South. And I'm a lot more on board with that right now, just based on what Dirk Cotter's been able to do. I know this is not live rounds, and we'll really get to tell for sure once the season starts. But, it all starts with getting everybody acclimated to a system. And having Lovie Smith work with the Tampa 2 last year, and our base players have like Gerald McCoy, Levante David, Altron Werner. We've got players that are all familiar with that Tampa 2. And what the Buccaneers have done is gone out into free agency, low risk, high reward players, not breaking the bank to being the best of the best in, but getting players that are familiar with that defense to come in and plug holes where they've let people go, such as Adrian Claiborne, who ended up going to the Atlanta Falcons, and Mason Foster, who ended up going over to the Chicago Bears. So what this administration is doing, they are building a real solid team, and I think you're going to see a lot of surprises this year from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and it's cliche to say one of the best 2-win teams in but there were so many
man, you should have heard who we were talking to earlier with Jacksonville Jaguar fans and Oakland Raider fans. They are ready to take over the world. Gene, I want to ask Kennedy this, and Gene, I just want you to follow up when he's done. Kennedy, tell us what you think you got in Deshaun Goldson, and then Gene, tell him what you got when he's finished.
It's somewhat of a mystery. Obviously he played very well in San Francisco in a more similar defense to what he's going to be playing with us. But he is. He played terribly with Tampa Bay. I don't expect him to be great, but I do expect him to be better than Ryan Clark, which isn't asking a whole lot.
No, God, Ryan Clark's he's an old man.
Ryan Clark was absolutely terrible last year, and usually you can't see coverages on live television. You have to get coaches tape or something, but you could tell that Ryan Clark was blowing coverages. That's how bad he was. You just see these wide open spaces, and this number 25 would be turning around, running the other way, trying to get to the ball. So I think Goldson will, he can tackle better than Clark, and I think he'll be an upgrade. How much of an upgrade, I don't know. If he plays like he did in San Francisco, then a significant upgrade. But no matter what, it'll be better, and I think he knows the coverages well enough that the corners will be able to trust him. Chris Culliver, he did play with for a short time in San Francisco, so we signed Chris Culliver as well. He'll be our number one corner, so there should be some more chemistry in the secondary.
I think, I agree with you with what you're saying about Deshaun Golston. He is a good tackler. With all the fines and all the suspensions that he's gotten, he plays a lot more tentative. I think the NFL has made him historic, so to speak, where his type of hitting and playmaking is no longer allowed in the NFL, and that was what made him a Pro Bowler. I mean, that he was laying on people was just ridiculous over in San Francisco. And when they started really when Goodell started dropping the hammer on the defenseless receiver and some of the other plays, all those personal fouls were adding up, and finally started getting to his wallet. And last year, you saw him just making solid tackles. I think he was second on the Buccaneers in tackles, but he wasn't really making any plays, and he was kind of getting lost in coverage, the same as Mark Barron was before they traded him over to the Rams. He just wasn't really a fit for the Tampa 2, but I think that, if they can use him in the right way, I think that he'll be fine in Washington.
Joey, I got to ask Peter this, since we've talked about Goldson and him being in San Francisco before. I got in a fight, Peter, and I had to shut my computer down at work over this mess on Twitter almost, where a guy was telling me that the San Francisco 49ers linebacker group was better than the Carolina Panthers.
Well, I'll say this. It's deep enough. Obviously losing Patrick Willis and Chris Borland hurts. But, hey, guess what? Navarro Bowman's coming back, and he's probably as good as 3 linebackers combined.
Okay.
Michael,
all right, he's good, but he's coming off an injury, right?
Yeah, I think most 49ers fans would take yeah, but he's been running really well without it during the off-season program. From what I've been reading, he's pretty much close to 100%. We won't know, of course, but outside linebacker position's pretty good as far as getting Alden Smith. He hasn't gotten in trouble off the field this season, which is
he
great.
Hasn't blown up an airplane or anything?
That's miraculous.
Yeah, he's stayed away from the bottle. He stayed away from trouble. So hopefully he can get back to his former self. You got Aaron Lynch, who had a phenomenal rookie season last year. Kind of came out of nowhere. He was a 5th-round draft pick. Kind of, well, who's this guy? We knew he had some ethic problems as far as his workouts were concerned, but phenomenal year last year. I really like the selection of Eli Harold out of Virginia by the 49ers in the 3rd round. This guy's a great pass rusher. So he's going to be inserted into certain pass rushing formations, not really be asked to do too much in coverage, which will probably be his liability early on. And then you got Michael Wilhoit on the inside, kind of a blue-collar guy. And kind of the wild card is Ahmad Brooks. A guy that played middle linebacker when he broke into the league with Cincinnati, a guy that might shift back there. There's been talk about it. Maybe he's just kind of a depth option there if they decide to move him back to the outside, or he's a starter on the outside, and you have guys like Lynch and Harold spelling him. The linebacker core definitely took a hit this offseason. You can't get around that. I don't know if it will be the strength of the team, but it's definitely not the primary weakness on defense. I still think the primary weakness in San Francisco's defense is going to be its cornerback position. And linebackers are good. I don't know if I'd rank them ahead of Carolina right now. We'll have to get a few games into the season and see how these other players pan out.
Do you guys run a 3-4 or 4-3 there?
3-4. There was a little bit of talk of going to the 4-3 defense, especially when Justin Smith was on the verge of retirement. A lot of people come along saying, hey, Smith's the reason why a 3-4 defense works. But with Tom Sewell, the guy knows defensive lines, so you got to trust him in that. I wanted to stick with that 3-4, which still fits the 49ers personnel, and you can kind of start plugging guys in and start thinking where your starters are going to be, and hopefully you're going to get the same sort of continuity out of that front seven that you did last year and the past few years, really.
Joe, what do you think about the idea that the San Francisco 49ers linebacker core is better than the Carolina Panthers?
I poop on that idea.
Okay.
No, that I really, there's no way you can compensate for the loss of a Patrick Lewis. And
yeah, he was the best, right?
He
You'd
was.
say he's the number one linebacker in the NFL.
Yeah, you can't.
Navarro Bowman, right?
Well, Bowman's still there, but Patrick Lewis retired.
Right.
And you just can't replace that kind of talent, man. Not in one season. It's not really possible. And then the young kid, I think it was Borland, I think this is what his last name was. Yeah. Him leaving, he had a real up and coming future. He had really turned some heads. And for him to retire, so you can't replace that kind of talent. And until they're able to, it's Panthers hands down. We got TD back there. We got Luke the Machine Kuechly back there. So,
Shaq Thompson, baby.
And Shaq. I mean,
Thompson.
Yeah. Watch out.
Watch out, brother. It's gonna be a boss.
Did anyone think it was ironic that Thomas introduced Thompson, who's going to be his eventual replacement?
I thought it was perfect. I thought it was fitting. Very apropos.
It was appropriate, and that I think that Thomas Davis, we all know that he's going to try to play out this contract and get, from what Ron Rivera says, one more, but he said he wants to finish in Carolina. So I think that he's going to just become a coach after this or something. And Shaq Thompson is a playmaker. I don't know, Joey, what do you think about it?
I think Shaq Thompson is going to be the real deal. I think that is specifically why they drafted him, to eventually replace Thomas Davis. Thomas Davis, for those of you who may not follow the Panthers that closely, came into the NFL as a defensive back, as a safety. He played safety in college. They only transitioned him to linebacker because, he could play the position. So you see that same sort of thing in Shaq Thompson, just the versatility and be able to put him in these different situations and have him excel. Shoot, we could even use him as a running back if need be.
Hey, I want to know this, Kennedy. How much does Kiko Alonso help? Isn't that his name?
Yeah.
Kiko Alonso. How much does he help the Philadelphia Eagles? He's a linebacker too, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he helps a lot if he can stay on the field. He's been great when he's on the field, but we had a season-ending injury last year, and he had a lingering injury before that, and he was hurt in college as well. So he's another guy. You got to stay healthy. But I mean, they have, with him and Kendricks, they have a very athletic linebacking core. But I just wonder how the chemistry is going to work, because they have so many moving parts. It takes a while for guys to come together, and I just don't know if it's how it's going to work out.
Joe,
that's a good point.
Who did Green Bay lose? Green Bay lost. Was it A.J. Hawk?
Yeah, he went to Cincinnati, I think.
A.J. Hawk and Brad Jones are out the door at this point.
Okay. Who do you see coming in, Chris, and stepping up for the Packers? I mean, what young player or rookie? Who's going to come in, and who do you expect to contribute big time this year?
Well, much like last year, you're going to see the Packers transition Clay Matthews to the interior for a little bit. It's going to be interesting to see just how much they do that in training camp. I think it's going to be kind of a 50-50 split, and they'll move him back on the edge on passing down.
Right.
Other than that, we have third-year linebacker Sam Barrington. He stepped up big time last year. I think he's going to be filling some of the other starting roles there. And Green Bay also drafted Jake Ryan, linebacker out of Michigan, in the fourth round. So, I'm not sure what to expect from him in his rookie year, but I think he has a stay healthy.
Okay. I was thinking more along the lines of the rookie receiver. Is his last Adams? Is that his last name?
Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
He's a second-year guy.
Is he? You think he'll see more playing time this year?
I most definitely do. he had a coming out party last year against the Patriots, and then again you saw him in the playoff game against Dallas with that big long touchdown. So he's the real deal, and I think he's going to be splitting a lot of time with Graham McCobb and Jordy Nelson this year.
What'd you call him? Jordy Nelson? He's going to be splitting. He's going to split time with him. Okay, I gotcha. All right. Well, that's who I was expecting you to say. But they're interesting, the guys you point out on defense, because that is the area where they need the most help. So that could turn out to be a good move for them. Gene, you doing all right over there?
Oh yeah.
Who is the? What are you expecting from the Winston kid? What are you expecting from him this year? Gene, you there? All right. Well, Gene doesn't want to talk. So, so Peter, I guess lastly we'll go to you. Who is the favorite in the NFC West? Is it the Niners, or is it kind of a toss-up because there's so many variables?
You know, honestly, if you're going to go with the favorite, and as much as it pains me because all of us out here in Bay Area, Northern California, as much as we love to say it, we hate the Seahawks, but it's still the Seahawks division. They lost their defensive coordinator Dan Quinn. He took off, but it's still an elite defense. I don't think there's any way you could look at it. I mean, they still have phenomenal secondary guys that can be alone in coverage, which can allow them to really properly utilize an effective pass rush and stuff the run, do what they've done for the past few years. If there are questions, they're going to be on offense, primarily on the offensive line. Losing Max Unger, their center, hurt. But you trade away Max Unger in a first rounder and you get Jimmy Graham. So, I mean, that's
not that bad.
Okay. For you guys, not. But we're thinking about Jimmy Graham against everybody else in the NFC West, and Russell Wilson loves to utilize his tight ends. I mean, he's made no-name tight ends look great. And what it does for the Seahawks offense is that guys are going to have to really respect Graham's ability over the middle. But we all know that with the Seahawks, and what they should have done at the very end of the Super Bowl, hand the ball off to Marshawn Lynch.
Right.
And hey, Marshawn Lynch is a great Warriors fan, so can't fault him too much for that. I'm sure he's happy with the NBA results, but it's going to be Lynch's show, and he's going to be running the ball. If there's some problems with the Seahawks, it's going to be the offensive line. Maybe nothing great, nothing really detrimental to how that team's going to pan out, but Seahawks could still easily be a 12-win team, a 13-win team this season. I don't really see them regressing for the next couple of years.
Well, here's one way they may be able to screw this whole thing up. Is, if I'm not mistaken, just a few weeks ago, Russell Wilson was talking about doing a deal that was team-friendly as much as him-friendly, and then I hear he's dating Sierra or Rihanna or one of those girls. And now he's talking about, I'm going to get paid like a free agent.
Yeah, it's
what I mean?
It's as much as I hate all that, the talk about contracts and everything. It's such an evil part of the game, and it's fascinating, I guess, if you like that. But I was talking about this with my father-in-law a little while ago, and we were chatting about how you look at where Russell Wilson has been over his career. Collegiate transfers, talking about, I might go consider playing baseball if things don't work out at the NFL level in free agency. So I don't know how much of a distraction that will be this year. It very well could be. But the Seahawks are a team that, looking at their financials, they'll be fine this year. But you start getting into 2016, 2017, especially if something with Wilson comes up and he does demand a NFL top contract, that's going to start putting them in real jeopardy, where you've seen so many teams kind of fall by the wayside when they run into problems with the cap.
Man, I say screw it, and he should sit his ass out. Like, Russell Wilson alone could devastate that team. I think they entirely underestimate how important he is to that working. Is that, yes, that defense is stifling, but those guys are wanting to get paid. You see grumblings of guys wanting to go to Atlanta and then come back to Seattle. You see guys coming. Who's the guy that went to Maxwell? Didn't he go to the Eagles?
No, he went to the Saints, didn't he?
New Orleans, yeah.
Yeah, he went to New Orleans.
Who's the guy that went to the Eagles? Wasn't there a Seattle player that was?
Walter
Bobby Wagner.
Walter Thurman.
Walter Thurman.
Walter Thurman, that's it.
That team, I think that what they are doing right now is all predicated on Russell Wilson. And while the numbers are not huge, they're important. And a team without a quarterback is not a team. Is that not right, Gene?
Oh, most definitely. I can tell you from experience.
I think Russell Wilson should be paid. I think he should command the highest damn salary in the league right now until somebody else does. That's my opinion on the matter.
No, I think you're right, Tony, and that's where I see the Seattle team slipping and maybe falling apart is if this contract becomes bigger than the team itself. And the issue of, how much are we supposed to pay this guy and how much aren't we? That could be where the team sort of unravels.
I'm sure there's like 24 teams in the league that would take his ass right now.
Oh, for sure.
Kennedy, would the Redskins take Russell Wilson today?
Absolutely, they would. Although the money that he's asking for is apparently crazy. I mean, he's not anywhere close to Aaron Rodgers. He's not anywhere close to the elite class. He's a very good quarterback. He's smart. He's a game manager. But I think without that defense, he's not looked at the way he is. I think he could be a top 10, 12 quarterback, but he's not a top 5 guy, and he wants to get paid $5 million a year more than Aaron Rodgers, which is insane. Aaron Rodgers is just
head and shoulders. I don't know that he's worth that much because
Aaron Rodgers' contract was signed 3 years ago.
But I mean, Russell Wilson is talking about making between $25 and $30 million a year. That's crazy. That's
Michael Jordan kind of money.
Yeah, he's not that good.
And I think, too, the thing about Russell Wilson that you have to keep in mind is that quarterbacks like him and Kaepernick, too, and the guys that play off of, RG3, that play off of a strong running game. And Russell Wilson is extremely effective because Seattle's got a running game like nobody else. They can pound the ball down your throat, which opens up all types of things for him, play action, read option, and he thrives in read option offense. I think that's the reason why Kaepernick struggled last year because the 49ers offense kind of got away from that, and that was his big strength. Whereas Russell Wilson is told, hey, utilize read option, utilize play action, let the fear of Marshawn Lynch get into other teams' heads. So if he goes to a team, I don't know, down the road that doesn't necessarily have the strongest running game, I'd be curious to see how well Wilson performs.
Yeah, Joey, we should ask Chris this, too. Chris, your mic says you're muted. I don't know. Say something. Yep, he's muted right now. His microphone is muted. I want to know what he's got to say about Aaron Rodgers getting paid more or less than, what's his name, Russell Wilson. Kennedy, you were going to say this, too, about, do you think Marshawn Lynch, is he that good? Oh, there he is. Chris is there. Chris, tell us, jump in there and tell us what you think about Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, the money.
Well, I'll say that every team is different to start. I do happen to think Russell Wilson is a top 10 quarterback. And,
well, I think that's fair.
Whatever he wants, I think the Seahawks do end up giving him. Because I think you have to look at it from the management standpoint. If you don't pay him, then what? Then John Snyder's just set back his franchise a couple of years, and they have nowhere to go except to rely on that defense.
And if I can kind of step in there, if you look at the Seahawks before Russell Wilson got there, what were they? I mean, you have to go way back to think about. You have to go way back to think about a decent quarterback that they had. And Russell Wilson has taken his team to the Super Bowl twice. And I would say he's been leading as a quarterback. I won't say he took him there because it was more the defense, but you get what I'm saying. He hasn't put the team in jeopardy to lose games based on his play. Well, except for that last play, but It was neither
That
here nor
wasn't
there.
his fault. That wasn't his
He
fault.
also has Pete Carroll, who, I mean, he's a defensive genius, and he came in at the same time. So I think he's the beneficiary of some good timing.
Right, perfect storm
with
of
all
things.
of that.
Yeah, sure. I can
I mean,
understand. Look,
I'm not taking anything away.
yeah, I can understand this in that from the viewpoint of, look, we just kind of went through something similar in Carolina with Cam Newton getting the big money. Is Cam Newton signed more money than Aaron Rodgers? He signed more money than anybody until this point, pretty much. I mean, he's got, what was it, Joey, like 60-something guaranteed?
63 million or something like that
63
guaranteed.
guaranteed. Yeah. And Cam Newton on a similar team, you know what I mean? He is a defensive team. He has put up some monster numbers, but not on the years that the team did well necessarily, right? So the numbers haven't just equated to wins, which is kind of opposite of Russell Wilson. But at the very what I agree with Gene on this is that you can't win 3-0. You know, I mean, you just have to have a quarterback. And if you don't have a quarterback, your team is looking for one. That's just what it is that if you don't have one, you're trying to find one. And there is no team where the defense, outside of maybe Baltimore temporarily, could do it with just a basic game. I think Russell Wilson is bigger than a game manager. I think that if you don't pay him, I agree entirely. Where are you at? Your team is nowhere. I mean, at that same time, then the Rams. Look at the Rams. There you go.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, having said everything I said about Russell Wilson, I would still take him in a heartbeat. So I'm not trying to say that I would. I'm just saying that A, I'm tired of hearing about him, and B,
and his virgin ass.
Yeah, I'm tired of hearing about him, and he's just not as good as he thinks he is. That's my problem with it. Like, he's great. I'd take him in a heartbeat, but he's not Aaron Rodgers. He's not. I mean, I'd even considered Cam Newton over him because I think if you put Cam Newton in Seattle's offense, I think.
Oh, geez.
Nasty.
Yeah, watch out. Yeah, watch out, because records would be coming down.
Yeah.
The Super Bowls would be it would be hoisted. The trophy would be hoisted. Just airmail it. Just airmail it right there.
Well, they have Jimmy Graham, so we'll see how that helps out.
That's going to help a ton. That is going to help a ton.
I agree.
If you think about it, is that their offense, other than Marshawn Lynch, has been pedestrian. That's what I think. Is that, what is it? Who's the guy? What they have? They had the dude that went to Detroit that slept with Russell Wilson's first. See, this is the problem, is that Russell Wilson won't sleep in with his wife enough, and then Golden Tate stepped in, and now Russell Wilson went on a sabbatical with, what's her name, Joey? Sierra. Yeah, I mean, that guy, I think he's just not doing it enough. That's his problem. But, I mean, other than Marshawn Lynch, that offense has been pedestrian. You got Golden Tate, then you had the, what is it, Kurz? Who's the guy that the juggling catch? But they really don't have much there. That's why I like him a lot. The running game is so important to that league, to the game, and that shows us this. And let's talk about running backs temporarily, Joey, because that's one thing we haven't talked about tonight. Gene, tell us this, is that because I think we've got good conversations across the board with running backs and how we're hoping that they can contribute to the team. Tampa Bay, 3 guys nobody knows. Is Doug Martin the man? Are you guys getting to a ground and pound?
I think that Doug Martin's going to surprise a lot of people this year. He's been injured the past 2 years. He's never been 100%. I know that's not an excuse, but with him coming back healthy and he's lost a lot of weight, I think him and Charles Sims are going to make a big difference. Once again, Dirk Cotter, I know I've mentioned the offensive coordinator a lot tonight, but that's key because we haven't had Tampa. If you look at Tampa, their history, they've only had maybe one decent offensive coordinator, and that was John Gruden. And beyond that, the Buccaneers have offensively have always struggled. And just to have this guy who worked wonders for Matt Ryan, and I look at the Atlanta Falcons last year and the garbage offensive line they had, and he was able to work with that and get them to where they were competitive. So I'm hoping, with what we've done with the draft and what we've done with free agency, hoping you see a lot of that. But getting back to the running game, I know that Dirk Cotter was a main reason that Doug Martin wasn't traded. Dirk Cotter thinks very highly of him. Sims, who was drafted supposedly to take Doug Martin's place, they're going to find a way to use both of those players. And, once again, we've made some moves in the draft. The fullback from Hawaii has been doing really well in camp so far. So we'll see what happens or how they implement him into the offense as well, because he's good at catching the ball out of the backfield as well.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the Samoan is probably good at blocking, too. I'm just guessing if he's Samoan or not. Is Lacey going to be any good this year?
Yeah, that's the word on the street. I think that'd be a nice little fantasy pickup for you fantasy players.
Oh, okay, that's probably true. What are you talking
He
like?
won me some money last year.
Yes, sir. Going out on a ledge with that prediction. Yeah, the Packers are in good hands with Lacey. He'll have another 1,000-yard season, assuming he stays in the field.
10 touchdowns.
The big question mark in the NFC North is Detroit. They kind of have a stable of three backs, really good pass catchers out of the backfield. So that'll be interesting to see who breaks out there.
The Butcher. The Butcher is going to be is Abdullah, right? Isn't that the guy that's good? Look, there's a and I want to know this. Other than that growling ass dog, whose dog is it?
That's a dog we're watching right now.
Nice.
Happy.
I want to ask this. No, he doesn't. I want to ask this. What about Alfred Morris? Is that the guy?
From the Redskins.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's the guy temporarily. He was drafted in the 6th round as a zone blocking guy, or zone scheme guy. Matt Jones apparently, even though I thought he was a reach when he was picked, and a lot of other people did too, but apparently people are saying he looks really good. It's just camp, so who knows? But going back to what you guys were saying about the running game, I mean, if you look at the NFC, the top running games were the Packers, Seattle, and the Cowboys, and look at the best 3 teams in the NFC. So I think people are trying to build that. And if you look at the Saints are trying to build their offensive line, and they're going to want to run this year. The Rams are going to try to do the same thing with Gurley. I think everybody in the NFC is really starting to create this running game because they know that that's what they need to do to compete. They need to shorten games.
I agree 100%. I think that's exactly where you're going to see the teams in the NFC start to go to. It's ground and pound, hold on to that ball, eat the clock up. It's hard for Aaron Rodgers to throw a touchdown pass when he's on the sideline.
Yeah, but it's also hard when he has one of the best running games in the league as well. So
yes, it does. But if you can keep the ball out of his hands, you really do increase your odds of winning. And I think that's where you're going to see a lot more. Panthers want to run the ball. Everybody across the board does.
Joe, I think we should close out the show by getting each individual to rank their NFC power rankings for their division across the board, Joey.
I mean, that's a great idea.
Where they think they're going to finish, and bring that insight to us who we need to know, because we're going to want to know who we're going to be playing in the wild cards, hopefully, who's going to make it in the division. Joe, you lead it. You conduct it. Tell us.
All right.
Get the NFC power rankings going.
Peter, we'll start with you, so we can hear the dog some more.
The dog quieted down. Well, up top, obviously, it's going to be Seattle. I don't really see any reason for that to change. In fact, the entire division is probably going to mirror a lot of what we saw last year. Arizona is going to come in number 2. They still have a good defense. Their offense, as long as Palmer's healthy, should be just fine. 49ers are probably going to be hovering right about 500. That's kind of been my prediction all along. I still think they have a ton of talent. Whether or not the coaching staff, which is completely overhauled, can put it together, that's going to be the big question mark. And the Rams, we brought it up earlier. I love Jeff Fisher as a personality, but as a winning coach, I don't know. And that offense, just so many weapons, but just never has put it together. In my book, I see them bringing up the rear.
I think that's a very fair assessment. I really do.
Still the toughest division in football, though.
Yeah, I think.
Please.
I would have to agree with that. From top to bottom.
All 4 teams are good teams. It's just,
from
they play each other
a division that had a losing record.
Because they all have to play each other.
Playoffs. I say no. All right, that's my opinion.
Yeah, well, that's not. Yeah, your opinion doesn't matter.
No,
all right, let's see what you got. Kennedy, what do you think's going to go on there in the NFC East?
I think it's really up for grabs. I could see the Giants having one of their years where they come out of nowhere. Eli has a big year and they make a run. But if I had to pick, I'd go Cowboys at the top. The Eagles, I just feel like I have a feeling the Eagles are just going to bottom out. I think there's too much changeover. I think Chip Kelly is putting way too much weight in his system over talent.
Mm-hmm.
And Steve Spurrier did that when he showed up in Washington, and he did well at first and then just bottomed out because he thought he could just, plug in any player and they'd be fine. It just doesn't work like that. So I'm hoping the Eagles bomb, but I'm going to have to put the Eagles second. And then the Redskins and Giants are really close to me. I think the additions the Redskins made on defensive line, they're going to be competitive. And I think all of the teams could end up with between 6 and 9 wins. I think it could be kind of a tough division. We all beat each other. So I would say Cowboys, Eagles, Redskins because I'm a homer, and then the Giants.
Fair enough. We accept that. We're homers too, so we're fine with that. All right, Gene, NFC South, representing the NFC South. What do you see these cards being dealt and playing out?
All right. Like I said, in the beginning at the top of the show, the Carolina Panthers are the team to beat. As I've been looking at the Saints, when they got rid of Jimmy Graham, they got rid of a lot of their offense. You can go back and look at the numbers, and I'm not just saying that just to be cynical, but they've gotten rid of a lot of their offense when they got rid of Jimmy Graham and sent him over to Seattle. So it remains to be seen what the coach is going to do, but that team and the Atlanta Falcons in transition with new head coach, new offensive coordinator, it's just kind of hard to see them rebounding and competing for the NFC South. So I do see the Carolina Panthers as the team of consistency over the past 3 or 4 years. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I do see them competing for the NFC South Championship. I won't put them at the top because it still remains to be seen what Jameis Winston is going to do as a quarterback. I do expect him to be a better decision maker as a quarterback than what we've seen over the past decade. So I think that that's definitely an upgrade over what we've been seeing, and I think that you'll see something a lot better. So I have Carolina, Tampa, the Saints, and then the Atlanta Falcons.
Just so you guys understand this, he's saying Tampa to finish second in the NFC South.
That's awesome, because I hate the Falcons so much. But I want to just quickly run this by you. I was listening to this show, Football Guys, and they have the Audible, and they were talking, it's a fantasy football podcast, and they were talking about Drew Brees and his production and how he threw 4,800 yards last year, and so we expect him to decline some, Jimmy Graham missing, and they were trying to add up who he was actually going to throw to and what yards they would actually have, and they were having difficulty coming up with 4,300, 4,400 yards. You know what I'm saying? Even if you said this guy's going to have 800, this guy's going to have 600, this guy's going to have 1,200, do you see Drew Brees and the Saints really taking this decline? And are they going to become a running team?
Well, I think a lot of it too is Father Time is catching up with Drew Brees. I've seen passes last year that he would have made with his eyes closed, where he was just doing more than he should have to try to get the ball into a certain area. So I think his mind is still real sharp as far as football, but physically he's not able to do the same things that he has been in years past. So I do see somewhat of a decline. And I think they're going to have to depend on the running game. That's it's going to be the only thing that's going to open up the pass for them, is being able to get people to commit inside the box to open up those man coverages.
All right, Joe, who's last?
And last but certainly not least, what do we see there from the NFC North, Chris?
One at the top, you have to go with the Green Bay Packers. They're legitimate Super Bowl contenders yet again. They're one play away last year, so you have to think they'll be in contention again. Second, I'm kind of flip-flopping here, but I'm going to go with the Minnesota Vikings. I'm going to rely on that Teddy Bridgewater takes that next step forward.
I like that pick.
That defense also takes another big step forward. A lot of youth there, a lot of promise. So that's where I'm going for 2. 3, I think Detroit will be right on their heels. They have the more consistent offense. You can't understate the loss of Sue and Fairley in the middle there. It really is what they did best. And without that, I'm not sure who else is going to step up even with Lodinata in the middle. So that's a big question mark for me. And, down at the bottom, I'm going to go with Chicago. You have a brand new coaching regime, John Fox and Nick Fangio. So I think it's going to take a little time. And they really don't have the pieces yet to run their defense effectively, because they switched 4-3.
Right.
So I'm not sure they have a chance this year.
And God only knows where Jay Cutler's head's going to be this year. You know what I mean? You really don't know what you're getting there. One year it's good, the next year you wonder. Yeah. So that's going to be a big question mark too. And Fox doesn't always have the greatest of relationships with his quarterbacks. So, interested to see how that interaction is going to take place. Guys, let me tell you, I really appreciate you coming on tonight. I really think you guys gave us some great insight to teams we don't normally look at much. We try to keep it pretty Panthers focused, but you guys came on and did a heck of a job. I want to thank you all.
Tell them, let's go around the table and tell them where people can get after them. Joe, conduct it.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris. You start us off. Where can people find you, and where can they get in touch with you on Twitter, please?
You can find me on Twitter at ChrisLicata16, and my work is featured over at ProFootballSpot.com.
Very nice. Go ahead, Gene.
You can reach me at Super Heavyweight on Twitter, and I am writing a few articles on Cold Hard Truth. So I will drop that link on Twitter tonight.
Nice. And go ahead, Kennedy.
My website is drafttech.com. I'm the Redskins writer there, and my Twitter handle is HELIKCX17, Helix17. So you can hit me up there.
And certainly, last but not least, Mr. Peter Panacy.
Go find me on Bleacher Report. You can also find me on Niner Noise by Fansided. And you can follow me on Twitter at Peter Panacy.
All right, guys, let me tell you, fans, these are some really good follows, so make sure you follow these guys and show them the Panther Nation love. It's been my privilege and an honor to be up here with you guys tonight, and thank you, Tony, for making it all happen.
Joey, tell them where they can find you and your work.
I am the freaking Puerto Rican. You can find me at Joe Riolano, and you can find my work mostly here or at CarolinaCatChronicles.com.
This is Tony Dunn, the professor. That's right. And this is the C3 podcast. Gene, you can put that crazy-ass sword down.
I don't even believe I'm looking at that.
Beat your ass. Go to CarolinaCatChronicles.com for the hottest Panther fans' news and opinions from the fan perspective. Because without us, folks, football's just a kid's game.
Holla.